The recent Artemis mission that saw a NASA capsule orbit the moon was a huge step in preparation for an eventual visit to our nearest neighbor. How'd they do it?
All my career, from a graduate student on, I've been hearing over and over again how we could not redo Apollo, right? The technology, the knowledge is lost. But yet here we are doing it again. And we soon will see Americans on the surface of the moon again, and hopefully a permanent presence.
I'm the kind of person that says, okay, we did that.
Yeah.
We already went to the moon. Why go back?
Well, because, why climb Mount Everest? I think it's a mixture of several things. Number one, there's the scientific research component, okay? But there's also the economic opportunity that comes from having bases off Earth so that we could potentially take advantage of the resources that exist in outer space, like comets. Our economy now depends heavily on electronics, which require these very rare metals, rare on the surface of Earth, but not rare in the core of Earth, which we don't have access to. But luckily, when other planets were forming early in our solar system, they differentiated just like the Earth did, and all the heavy stuff sank to the center, but then later they collided with something. And so now we have chunks of core stuff flying around out there, and we're calling it asteroids. And so there's one asteroid out there that is, at a value of more than something like $1 quintillion, right? That we could potentially mine. So there's a third reason, and this is one that people don't like to talk about, but I think that there are geopolitical implications.
And that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Are we on the dawn of a new race, a new space race?
I think we are. I think we're already there, in fact, right? Low Earth orbit, orbital parameter space is being grabbed. And you could look at the same thing for the moon. So the question I have is, the analogy I make, is it going to be more like the North Pole or the South Pole? And here's what I mean. All of us nations that are competitors, we exist in harmony at the South Pole because there is no military or commercial advantage to be gained there that anyone sees. But you go to the North Pole, now that it has melted, those continental shelves have oil. So everybody's fighting over it. Right. So what is going to be the case with the moon? What is it going to be the case with orbit? What is going to be the case with Mars? We don't know the answer yet, but the thing is that we know the problem could potentially occur. So there's two things you want to do. You want to get your treaties done, right, to keep the peace, but also, just in case, you want to go and grab what you can grab while the getting's good, right? And that's the reality. We have not reinvented human beings. We have not reinvented nations. We're still in a competitive world, right? We're still in a dangerous world. So, it's like hope for the best, but plan for the worst is kind of the approach.
What do we know about the moon now that we didn't know before?
Yeah, so the moon, we learned so much more and more and more about the moon. The big surprise when the Apollo astronauts went up there and they got some moon rocks and brought them back to Earth, it was, oh my goodness, the moon is made of Earth, right? But then we started studying the moon more, and we learned, it's very different, the far side from the near side. And then people started thinking about fusion, and they thought, oh, maybe helium-3 is a better fuel to add to deuterium than tritium because it's less radioactive. Initially, for billions of years, the sun has been depositing helium-3 in the lunar regolith. Maybe we could go to the moon and mine the helium-3. It's not clear that that is a solution, but and now we also know there's water on the moon, right? So the key thing is our technology and our aspirations have come to a level where just as the United States have outposts around the world in places like Guam that makes it easier to get where you want to go, the moon can be that for Earth, right? Orbit is one thing, and then having a solid base where the gravitational cost of getting off that body is far less. And if that body has its own fuel right there, then that can be very valuable for taking advantage of
going to Mars,
the outer solar system. Exactly. And I really think that even though we may never colonize Mars, some people think we may, I think space tourism is a real thing that may happen.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So what new technologies, in your opinion, have to be developed in order to make this a reality?
So they're already doing it, right? So it all depends. If you look, I think one of the key elements is fuel. So the big problem that Artemis had is that it still uses liquid hydrogen as the fuel. Liquid hydrogen, think about that, okay? It has to be like negative 450 degrees Fahrenheit. It's so low density, so keeping it inside of a hose is very difficult. Think about it like this. If you look at the difference in density between lead and water, the difference in density between water and liquid hydrogen is even greater.
And lead.
Than lead, comparing lead and water.
Wow.
Yeah, so that stuff is very, very difficult to work with, right?
What's next for the Artemis program? This is a phased deal, right? So what happens next?
So the first thing we did is we sent a craft without humans, and there were a lot of sensors on board. And the thing that we're doing now, which, why didn't we think of this before? The space environment and radiation affects females' bodies differently than it affects male bodies. So they put mannequins on there with sensors to figure out how the radiation environment is gonna affect females. But then now, we're gonna do the same thing with real humans next. And so I love the way that NASA says when the next step is gonna happen. They say, not before 2024. Not, on this date in 2024, but not before a particular date. But after we do that, then we're gonna put, just like we have an International Space Station orbiting Earth, we're gonna have an orbiting space station orbiting the moon. And then we're gonna actually send humans to land on the surface of the moon and start taking care of business. We'll build a moon base on the surface, and then after that, it can now serve as a staging area to go beyond.
We have a number of our students in the audience. I'd like to open it up for questions. So any questions you have would be greatly appreciated.
So how do you just forget how to go to the moon? That's what I'm kind of confused about.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And when you have a factory that builds things, it's outfitted to do that. And when you no longer have that purpose, you repurpose that factory, you tear everything down. And also, if you think about it, in my lifetime, how did we store digital data? It started off with those big floppies, and it went to a smaller floppy, then a smaller floppy. Then I had Jazz Drive and all these other things. I can't use that now. I used to have an old box of VHS tapes. What am I gonna play that in? I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild, all right? So now it's time to vote for Oscar winners. They send me DVDs. How am I gonna watch those movies? Right? So, things just get out of date. So keep that in mind as you develop new knowledge. How do you keep it? How do you preserve it? And how do you pass it on to the next generation?
Well, we know our future is intact, and we know we have another place that we will all visit someday soon.
Yes.
So I want to thank you,
Thank you,
Dr. Oluseyi, for spending time with us. And I want to thank all of you for the next episode of NASEN, Our Future Transformed.